What do you remember about being punished as a child? Think about it. What did your parents do? Next, I want you to think about how it made you feel. Many people choose to parent the same way that they were parented. It's human nature. Even though I'm a child psychiatrist, I can't tell you how to parent. I'm not the expert at your child or your family. As a child psychiatrist, what I have to offer is information. So, if you're interested in information on rethinking discipline, then keep listening. I'm drkerryann Williams, and this is your Mental Health Boost. It's quite difficult to control what children do. They literally have a mind of their own. They are energetic and curious and, immature. And it's these very same qualities, curiosity, energy, and immaturity, that can get kids in trouble. And, when things get out of hand, adults often try to regain control. And this can lead to a variety of disciplinary measures. As I said before, I'm not an expert in disciplining your child. What I am is an expert in childhood trauma. And so what I hope to talk to you about today is a little bit about the philosophy of discipline and maybe a little bit about the biology of what's happening. The first thing that I want you to do is to ask yourself the question, what is my discipline philosophy? Is it to punish or is it to teach? Now, if your discipline philosophy is to punish, then it's a slippery slope down the path to potentially causing emotional trauma because punishment is about suffering for what you did. But if your discipline goal is to teach, then you're all about making your child a better person. And teaching doesn't have to include suffering, at least not intentionally. There can be natural consequences to bad decision making by children, and sometimes those natural consequences are enough in terms of suffering without any additional intentional causes of suffering. So if your goal is actually to teach and not to punish, what does discipline look like if the goal is teaching? So here's a little bit of the biology. When children misbehave, that misbehavior is often preceded by some kind of emotion. Sometimes they feel jealousy for a sibling and so they hit the sibling or they break their toy. Sometimes they feel anger and they may scream or throw something. Sometimes what they're experiencing is curiosity and they may take something apart and then they don't know how to put it back together again. And then when the child gets caught or gets called out for what they did, they experience an emotion related to being caught. So whether it's with the misbehavior itself or being called out or caught for the misbehavior, this whole process is emotional for the child. And what we know about brain development is that the part of the brain that processes emotions for children, it's just rapidly developing. The part of the brain that controls thinking and decision making and problem solving, it is still not fully developed. So children have this really great capacity to feel and experience emotions, but then they don't have the capacity to make good decisions around it or to really regulate those emotions very well. So as a parent, this is where you may need to provide some scaffolding when it comes to misbehavior. So when your child misbehaves and gets in trouble, they are figuratively a ball of emotions. Their emotional brain is very active and it overrides their thinking brain. So if your goal of discipline is to teach your child something, you have to make sure that their thinking brain is online before you can really teach them anything, which means that the first step in discipline may include actually helping them regulate their emotions. As I said before, children are not great at regulating their own emotions. They really rely on parents to help them to calm down. And it's when they're finally calm that they can access their thinking brain. Once children are regulated, then their thinking brain is more accessible and they can take in what you have to say. And some of my recommendations for what to do next come from the book No Drama Discipline by Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. And what they recommend first is to connect. And that includes moving the child from reactivity to receptivity. So some of that is regulating them emotionally, moving them to a different room to address them one-on-one, that sort of thing. This helps to facilitate building a relationship. The second is to try to look for the causes, the underlying causes of the misbehavior. I think it's really tempting sometimes when misbehavior occurs, you just want it to go away, just make it stop. But if you take the time to figure out what the underlying reason is, you may be able to prevent future misbehavior, because sometimes you'll find that there's a pattern, or you may find that the underlying reason was something very simple, or they break something apart because they're curious, because they're bored and they need something else to occupy their time. Are they tired, hungry? Are they jealous of a sibling and we need to address that? Knowing the underlying reason and talking with them about the underlying reason can be really helpful. Sometimes even addressing the underlying emotion, which brings me to the next point, which is that even though you can't validate the behavior because the behavior is wrong, you can validate their feelings. So for example, if they hit their sister, no, don't hit your sister. But you can say, I can understand why you might have been angry when your sister said this thing or that thing. When people say things that are hurtful, it does make us angry, but we can't hit them when we feel angry. So it's kind of like addressing and validating the emotion as being a valid human emotion, but then, teaching about the behavior. So, and it sounds like a very simple thing to validate the emotion, but I've seen children and youth with severe problems with anger and aggression who are kind of de-escalated by just validating their emotions and saying, you have a right to feel human emotions, even though the way you're expressing it is not helpful. Sometimes validating that emotion can really, really make kids feel heard and understood, and it can help them to calm down. Lastly is to listen instead of lecturing. It's, parents, we know so much about everything in the world. We want to teach children everything they need to know. And again, that part of their brain that processes things, it's not fully developed, and they're still feeling quite emotional in that moment that they're talking to you. So their thinking brain might still not be 100% online. And so it's really important to kind of listen to them, give them a chance to explain what they want to kind of explain, say what they need to say to feel heard. You may even reflect back what you heard them say so that they can be assured that you are listening, and then teach what you want to teach. So once they feel heard, you can say, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, and then you can move forward and teach them what you want to teach them. Now, these things may be things you guys are doing already, and if you are, then awesome. You are doing what child specialists recommend. But I wanted to just go over that and talk about the book that I recommend, No Drama Discipline, by Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. So this is 100% not simple. There is no formula for how to work with children. There's no one size fits all. So what I hope to achieve with this mental health boost is just to either validate what you're already doing, or to present something that maybe you hadn't thought of in that way, or maybe just a little bit of that underlying biology to explain sometimes why kids do what they do. And also just this idea of discipline as teaching, and why punishment can be either unhelpful, ineffective, or sometimes really harmful and just totally unnecessary. I feel like life is so unfair already, and there's so many ways that people will suffer in life, whether they want to or not, that we don't need to include that as part of our discipline strategies. We can use other better strategies to help kids to have more resilience, so that when life does throw unfair things at them where they suffer, they know that they can come to the parent that they've built a strong bond with, the parent that understands and validates them, and the parent who is fair and teaches them what's right. So if you enjoyed any of the content today, like this video and subscribe to my channel. And the question that I have for you today is, what is your discipline philosophy? Drop that in the comments below and let me know. And share this video with anyone that you think could benefit from watching it. And have a great week.